In here we see the original stone carving in Sumeria of a giant instructing people. Their giants were half-human offspring of the Nephilim. They could run 40 miles an hour. They could run a horse down on foot and knock it to the ground with their bare hands.
It's a big smorgasbord or zoo of genetics, you might say. Not just human genetics, but animal and plant genetics as well. So this is such an amazing place because of the diversity of life here, and the diversity of genetics is nowhere else in the universe. And it needs to be preserved because of that.
DNA from Earth might save a dying space race, but the human race, though it has reached for the moon, seems almost oblivious to what's really happening at home. Preoccupied with endless wars, we ignore global warming, hurricanes, widespread destruction, pollution on a global scale, from the melting Antarctic and ozone depletion to the melting Arctic, where wildlife is increasingly endangered. What was once a mother planet that nurtured all its species is now a mother in danger of dying.
The greater family of man, or the off-worlders, you might call them, are deeply concerned with where we're going concerning the environment. You know, we've had the earthquakes and volcanic activity has increased 400%. We've got over 50 plus active volcanoes right now and counting.
How many volcanoes could erupt if prompted by a large gravitational field? This is the location of all the volcanoes on the Earth. That's a lot.
There's undersea volcanoes going off. That's also heating up the ocean.
Look at the yellow there. When it, oh my God. Look at, it's an extremely vigorous eruption going on right now.
There's over 50 dead zones in the ocean right now. One of them is over 700 miles wide. There's another bigger one that's opening up right now. There's no plankton there. So there, again, there's no oxygen.
Dr. Robert Diaz of the Virginia Institute of Marine Science notes that dead zones are most often associated with population areas and nutrient runoff, which can cause complete oxygen depletion and total mortality of marine life. Oregon State University is researching an unusual dead zone-related series of events off the Pacific Northwest. They're finding huge numbers of dead crabs and dead and dying seals suffering from leptospirosis. While the majority of dead zones are less than 1,000 square kilometers, the largest is over 70,000 square kilometers in size.
We're taking out the rainforest, and our forests here, we're raping the forest right now, it's the same thing. When you aggravate that with the pollution and with the increase in CO2 and other emissions, we're actually on a fast track to extinction.
Scientists may not use the words fast track to extinction, but pollution has been building and accelerating around the world for centuries. Unburned aviation gases added to the problem, with the potential to catch fire. Other scientists have been monitoring global warming and melting ice caps for decades. Satellite tracking over Antarctica is helping supply information on how rapidly that continent is seeing its ice sheets and glaciers crumble and melt. Since the recent breakup of the Larsen B ice shelf, glaciers in Antarctica have been moving toward the ocean up to 8 times faster than previously. And at the other end of the world, decades of strange behavior. Once, the ice reflected sunlight back into space, but as the ice melts, more sunlight hits the water, heating the ocean, and that accelerates next season's ice melt. And this is what's happened in just the past 25 years. The serious consequence of all that fresh water flowing into the ocean is that the Atlantic conveyor belt, the current that regulates climate around the world, will eventually stall. A report commissioned for the U.S. Department of Defense says that could happen abruptly, perhaps as soon as 2010, and Europe will have a Siberian climate. The Sun is building to a period of solar maximum storms in 2010 or 2011. Nothing like it has been seen since the world became dependent on microchips. Huge coronal mass ejections are expected. One of these could knock out everything on Earth that generates or uses electricity. A small flare in December 2006 disrupted airplane GPS landing systems for 15 minutes. Fortunately, none of the thousands of planes that were in the air actually crashed that time. Although few dare mention it, James says a dire scenario is unfolding. To quote a report prepared for the U.S. Department of Defense in 2003, the gradual climate change scenario may be a dangerous act of self-deception. The plausibility of abrupt climate change is higher than most of the scientific community and perhaps all of the political community is prepared for. Evidence suggests that such an abrupt climate change could occur in the near future.
This same scenario has been gone over again and again and again, ending up in major cataclysms on the planet, both brought about naturally and also through technology.
The Earth nearly died during another cataclysm much earlier than the flood of Noah, destroying the great civilizations of Atlantis and Mu. This is a very ancient map, by the way, called the Newsy map. And it shows Mu on the left-hand side of your screen and Atlantis on the right-hand side of your screen. If you ever get the two confused in your mind, now you know where they are. Of course, they're sunk beneath the sea for now.
We're moving into this same epic, you might say, journey where we're right at the apex of it again, where we're going to choose, are we going to destroy ourselves and allow technology to supersede spirituality? Or are we going to go through a major spiritual awakening and realize that we live in this incredible sea of consciousness, like quantum physics tells us that everything is connected?
Just how connected is the Earth? That is graphically illustrated in this U.S. Geological Survey website animation that shows just 1 week of earthquake activity. The bigger the square, the bigger the quake, and they're happening all the time. Note how the Kuril Islands, between Russia and Japan, which had experienced regular 5+ quakes for months, has an 8.5 and then a 6.1 quake on the same day. Tsunami warnings were issued, but fortunately, nothing like the devastating 2004 Banda Aceh tsunami occurred this time. That one took almost 250,000 lives. James' visions of tsunamis hitting the west coast of the United States have also yet to be realized, but he believes that nature, Mother Earth, is rebelling against decades of exploitation.
You know, we need to get our act together and realize that what's more important, you know, making that almighty dollar or taking a breath.
Trout Lake has short, hot, dry summers. It's home to organic farmers and good people, and a fine place to camp if you're attending a conference at the sanctuary. But then winter arrives, making for difficult access through snow that can easily bury a car overnight. James has his detractors, critics, he says, who suffer from cognitive dissonance, which raises an interesting question.
There's a question I've always wanted to ask a tractor driver, and that is, what is cognitive dissonance?
Oh, cognitive dissonance is the total inability to accept any belief outside of your own.
Does that translate perhaps another definition as a closed mind?
Yes, no matter how much evidence or how much proof you give somebody, they'll automatically just refuse to accept any reality outside their own box, you might say.
Is this a widespread disorder?
I'd say most of the earth is suffering to one degree or another with it.
And there's a cure?
I believe the cure is to just, again, you know, face life with an open mind, a loving heart, and pure intent, and allow the universe to teach you things.
But are we willing to learn that UFOs can look like clouds?
They could be actually sitting within a cloud and watching us at any time. But I'm not saying all clouds are UFOs. There are natural formations of clouds that are lenticular and others of that nature. But it is highly possible that the fields around the UFOs generate kind of a cloud formation around the ship. They're talking a lot about the future and how we have to prepare, and there's going to be a lot of cleanup on every level: consciousness, the environment, everything, and nature is going to be very active in this process. As far as nature is concerned, our whole heliosphere, our solar system, is moving to a new place in the universe where there's the leading edge of it as we're moving is 1,000 times brighter, and all the planets are heating up. They're putting out 4 times more light. They're going through atmospheric changes. The sun is reacting to this, throwing off massive coronal mass ejections and solar flares, and that's affecting our weather, it's affecting our communication, it's affecting our consciousness as well. We've just seen the beginning of the earth changes. They're going to escalate. It's going to be very intense in the next couple of years.
James says that just as there are 4 seasons in a year, which means everything from ants to humans must prepare for winter, there are much longer planetary cycles or seasons, spanning thousands of years, and we are in a season of planetary changes, which have always involved global earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic activity that creates magma vents like Mount Adams.
Mount Adams has a very, very long history of UFO activity. It has at least a 100-year history of people seeing the ships. They've got forest rangers and fire tower operators, and a lot of the police, the tribal police, everybody. It just has a real long history of UFO activity. In the ancient times, they said that when they're wounded, or people got wounded or really sick or ill, they used to take them to a certain place, and they would come from the interior of the mountain and pick their sick or their wounded up and take them into the mountain, and then the shaman or the chief would get a message, like a telepathic message, it's time, and they would go back up and pick their people up, and they'd be